Oh, I need to hand it to me, sweetheart. And I didn't. You didn't win. Oh, I really hope you didn't. You tied it in a knot. What are you doing? Oh, okay. It's gonna be an echo for just a second, guys. Oh, I need to hand it to me. Got it. Okay. There we go. It has a plug. Okay, so in chapter 1, she talks about what does witch really mean. In chapter 2, she talks about why being a rebel, or she explains her reasoning behind rebel witchery. And then in chapter 3, she talks about the challenges. So it was pretty straightforward on this in this first 3 chapters. In the intro, she explains a little bit about how the book is like separated into various parts.
Sorry.
And she mentions that there is a try it section and a write it section at the end of each chapter, which I thought was kind of interesting. So I want to kind of focus on those questions in the reading, because I know we all read it. If you didn't read it, you listened to it. If you didn't listen to it, you had it on a Kindle. I have mine on Kindle.
I think I have it on Kindle and Audible, I think, actually.
The other Shannon told me that she has it on Audible, and she says that it narrates it on Audible, right? And she thinks it's amazing.
Yeah, I think the writer narrates it.
Yeah, and she said she's really funny, so I was like, I might have to.
Very funny. She's English, and she has just a wonderful accent and wonderful kind of energy. She's fizzy.
I love that.
Yeah, well, I actually found her YouTube channel. That's how I found her book, was through her YouTube channel.
She has a YouTube channel. You need to post that.
Yeah, that's how I found her, and she was talking about the book, and then I went and got the book.
Okay, I'm gonna go walk you for a second, because I'm looking at you guys, and the camera's off to the side, and it's fucking the dog piss out of me. There we go. So yeah, stick our YouTube channel up in the group, because I would love to check that out.
I will. It's just under her name.
Okay.
Kelly Ann Maddox, I think.
Is this her first book, or does she have other books?
Yeah, this is her. This is her. I think.
I'll have to look into that. So she breaks out in this understanding that I kind of have myself, where you build your own path according to your own thing. And I truly love how she starts this book, because she's like, I'm not going to get all one way or another and stick it to certain things. She's removing certain kinds of terms and stuff like that, so people don't feel restricted, which I think is really neat. And then she pops off with chapter 1, where she talks about what being a witch really means. So from her understanding, she's got like multiple different ways people describe witchery. So she talks a little bit about, and I don't know if my page numbers are the same as your page numbers, because I'm on my Kindle. She talks about the fantasy witch, the cackling witch, the child snatching witch, the one with the ugly nose and the green face, the fantasy witch. And then she talks about I don't have any page numbers on here. Where the term witch came from. She says witch comes from the Old English word for practitioners of witchcraft. Wiki, I don't know how to pronounce these properly, was used to describe female witches, and Wicca for male, which is really interesting. Now that we think about the tradition of Wicca is traditionally male, which is neat.
Well, which makes sense.
Which
makes sense. If Gerald Gardner started it, he's a male wit. Makes sense.
Right. Right, but they represent they do a lot of the female side of it, even though that it's coined by a male, which is neat.
It's pretty balanced. I think that's the foundation of it, is male and female. I don't know.
Then she says it later turned into the Middle English witchy, which described practitioners regardless of gender. So it became neutral, essentially. So she has a little bit of a history here, talking about the witch trials, and she has on her reading list, I guess is in the back of the book, which I haven't gotten to yet, page 251 and 252, for the list of reading references for, witch trials, and I'm sure she has other ones throughout the book in there, to help you learn a little bit more about it. I think it's cool that she doesn't shove it down your throat. She's like, it's all because of this or that, you know what I mean? She's like, well, there's this situation that happened, and there's history that you can check out on your own time if you feel like it, which is neat. And then basically she's saying in chapter 1 that a witch is someone who practices something. Not necessarily one thing or another, but has some sort of practice, whether it's ritualist, whether it's adopting different traditions. Witches are considered practitioners. So, just refreshing my brain. I read it last night. She says witches build up their skills, they dabble, they experiment, they often specialize. While it's common for witches to be bookish, though it's not a requirement at all, to witch is to walk the path of living it rather than just learning how it could be lived. This book will help you figure out how to do that and be your own exclusive way. Your path is monotony. She has a lot of little names that she sticks in here, which is cool. So let's talk about what a witch does. What do you guys think? I mean, we probably all have different opinions on what witches do.
I think it's subjective. I don't know. I think a witch is anyone who calls themselves a witch. And it's also an accusation. From assholes. And I think you somewhat fall in that spectrum of thing. I don't call myself a witch. It just doesn't sound right. But some extreme evangelical fundamental Christian would call me a witch. Do you know what I mean? It's not something like, it would be an accusation toward me, but not something that really, not that it, I guess, doesn't fit. It's just not something I use or find necessary anymore. What? No.
I absolutely call myself a witch. I do. I have a practice of my own that I've kind of built on my own. I don't feel like I have to justify it to anybody or to follow anything specific. I do kind of pull with what feels good to me. But when I'm actively doing things, and I do find myself, manipulating energies and beginning putting out manifestations and seeking an end result. And I do it a lot in my practice. but
Does
I
anyone
don't necessarily have.
Okay, Heather, I can't. Heather's breaking up.
We can't understand you, Heather. You're breaking up really bad.
You sound like a robot.
Hold on. Let me clear this up.
Did you find it, Jason? Sorry.
I have a lot of things going on my thing, so let me just clear up most of it. Is that a little bit better?
As far as I can tell.
Say something.
Is that better?
I think so.
The
Okay.
sound is.
Say seashells down by the seashore.
You want me to say she sells seashells by the seashore?
I mean, you tried.
Yeah, I'm not very good at that. So I guess I'm back. I just had a lot of windows open, so I just closed a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah, you sound better.
But my thing is that I don't have one tradition. I don't have one specific thing. And she does talk about in here about being restricted or having a tradition already mapped out for you, because sometimes that's easier for people. It's not necessarily building your own if you follow a tradition that's pre-mapped out for you. But I don't definitely have a pre-mapped out tradition, but I definitely find myself as a practitioner in what I'm doing. So I will actively seek out manifesting things that I would like to manifest. And I do that in my own personal way without any rhyme or reason in some of the different traditions. So I do use some of the tools, but I don't necessarily follow each tradition to a T. And I think that differs for everybody. What do you guys think? Do you guys follow a tradition to the T?
No.
It depends what it is. So say I want to do something and I'm feeling rather Wiccan that day, I'm gonna do the Wiccan way to do things. Or if I'm feeling very Catholic or Episcopalian one day, I'm going to do things that way. So I kind of split things up to where I follow tradition, but I may do like by the book, but not in the way they intended. I don't know how to explain it. It's not making much sense. Different things. My practice is more religious, I say, and based in different religions and gods. I'm probably more pagan than anything, I guess. I'm a polytheist more than anything.
Right. Well, when she's talking about like, having a tradition mapped out for you, like if you were solely Wicca, you wouldn't veer into other different traditions. It would just be Wicca and do only Wicca. You know what I mean? It'd be like going to only.
But that's only for ritual. Like Wiccans still do their own. Wiccans still do their own thing. They do the exact same thing only during ritual. But their practices at home and stuff are unique and individual. And really in witchcraft, there aren't that many traditions. There's like 2 that I know of that have any semblance of any kind of guidelines, and they're not really rules. So it's kind of hard. If you're not those 2 things, you have to make your own way. You know? I can't hear you.
We can't hear you, Heather.
And I can't refresh it. It doesn't work. Oh my God.
Could you guys hear me?
Could you guys hear me?
Okay.
Twice.
Oh my God. And I want to like go. Oh. Is that a little bit better? Or?
We'll have to see because it kind of goes in and out. Like you start to sound good and then it goes wonky donkey.
It might be the internet. Am I a little bit better now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what I was saying is that, you know, like each tradition has its own practices. So like I've been corrected a couple of times when I'm like, when I go to the meetings with cups and moon sisters and stuff, I've had a couple of times where I was corrected in what I was doing. And I kind of looked at them funny, like, why do I need to do it your way? You know, and that comes, she talks about that in chapter 3, where people think that where she touches on people think you have to do it a certain way. And you'll get a lot of like flack for that. So she says here, a common misconception is that witches defy the laws of science and therefore could never exist in reality. But actually, witches tend to respect and pursue scientific knowledge. They just also appreciate that there is so much that's not fully understood in the terms of Western science, and that their experiences on the magical journey are undeniably profound. Most you come across don't see themselves as being able to defy science by movies, watching them, for instance. They're more likely to feel that they complement scientific reality with a keen appreciation for evidence gathered beyond the bounds of mainstream research. What do you guys think of that?
I think that witches are definitely more open to that than some other religions, namely the Christianity. I mean, I guess there's just probably one.
The Abrahamic tradition.
And some are, not all Christians, can't broad brush, you know, but I think she's right.
What about Scientology?
What, Scientology? Is that what you said? that don't even get me started, girl. Don't get me on the religion. I you know, I do it for fun because I'm a dork. I study religion. Scientology is about space and aliens, basically. It's about the aliens. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, science fiction, sure. But yeah.
I think it's neat that we as a witches, there's a lot of evolution in science, and as things mold and become facts that are proven to be facts, we mold along with it and accept what has become fact. And then for me personally, as a healer with alternative medicines and stuff, I find myself in a very scientific position where I study a lot about plants. I study a lot about the body. But, you know, when it comes to learning all the different, you know, mind, body, and spirit, they're all connected. You can't just like eliminate one to help you understand things better, because it doesn't work. If you don't consider all aspects, then you have a limited perspective. So studying plant-based medicine and helping others, it's really important to involve the science part of it, and for me personally. And then when I'm even in my practice, when I do spell work, I consider the ether, and then I consider how that travels into something that I have manifested, either by writing or with my hands or building or whatever. And then I understand the cycle of exchange between energy. So that is very scientific as well, which I think is very interesting. So I definitely agree that there is a lot of science in our practices.
And we're more open to theories, to theoretical scientific theories, because, a lot of our own personal beliefs on, we'll just say what the afterlife is, it's all theory. We all have theories. We don't 100% like have dogma, right? Where Christianity tells you what's going to happen and whatever. So we kind of have to decide for ourselves and come up with our own theories and from our own tests and kind of whatever. I just think it's easier for us to be more open. You know what I mean?
Well, not just, also consider the seasons, and we celebrate the changes that happen all the way around the year.
Yeah, I've said this to Christina. To me, that's not witchcraft. That's just the old way of life. Like it wasn't anything special. It was just the way people lived. It was just everybody farmed by the moon signs, and and everyone had different kind of things. It's not to me, none of that's not witchcraft. We make it witchcraft today as modern people, but that was just a way of life. It was just
right.
That's why the old people get insulted when you say it's witchcraft. They're like, people have been doing that for 500 years and weren't witches.
It's a practice. And that, right. I think most people, when they hear the word witchcraft, they think something bad. I don't know why. And then the number one thing that I hear when someone says witchcraft is, you practice white magic or black magic, and I just want to laugh at them. But but even back then, like the Norsemen, when they farmed, they had practices and rituals that they kept to feed the land, to manifest a good harvest. So those are technically witchcraft, just not.
I disagree. Agree to disagree. I think that was religion, to be honest with you. That was their religion, not witchcraft. It wasn't. They had a form of witchcraft that has a name.
Completely different than a practice. So a religion is something you believe. Okay, a practice is something you do.
Yeah, but why would you do it if you don't freaking believe in it? That doesn't make any sense. Then you're just like doing it to do it. So it is a religion, maybe not an organized religion, but it's a religion. You have a belief that planting that thing in the thing is going to do something, or you're doing it, and most like. But that's religion, maybe not religion today, but it was a religion.
They used to slaughter animals, and they had practices that they did to feed the ground blood, and those are practices to help manifest.
Those are offerings in the ground to a god. That's religion. That's religion.
Okay.
It's not, religion is not only Christianity, and it's not only Islam, it's not only Judaism. All that other stuff for those people's religion is very different than our religion today, but it was their religion. It was a part of their everyday life. Like if they're making a blood offering to the ground, that is an offering to a god. That's religion.
Right. But she said there in chapter 1 that being a witch is a way of life. It's a practice.
For her, though, you're supposed to be open. It's not a practice to everybody.
Well, I understand.
I'm just fucking with you. I don't even practice witchcraft.
The term I think is just, it's confusing and changes for everybody. And that's what she's
I think we have different perceptions. My perception of witchcraft is the same as your perception of religion. It's just words that it doesn't fit our beliefs, and kind of witchcraft doesn't kind of fit mine, I guess, maybe something, sort of.
Okay, well, she says here, she says, many witches follow agreed group guidelines or operate within traditions, and this can obviously be effective. Witches may choose to follow meticulously the instructions laid out for them in books, on websites, by online mentors, or within their local communities.
How to train.
Again, these strategies can be extremely effective. I never say it's wrong to follow an existing framework. This book, however, is more about sewing a high-powered patchwork quilt of your own devising, featuring different facets of culture, art, and all manner of personal interests and references, drawing on your own energy, power, passion, will, and capability. These elements provide the fuel for the manifestation of your desires, which is neat, like, because we are completely all 100% different.
Yeah, this book is so good. The idea is so good. I feel like you could take her kind of methods and everything and use it for anything in your life to make your own way, even if it's for mental health or for, you know what I mean, for so many things. It's so good.
She even touches on the political point, the political position on witches as well, which I thought was interesting. She talks about witch is a word that tends to pick up political and magical overtones during the times of cultural upheaval. In the face of division, extremists, and threat to the planet, the idea of being a witch gathers attention. Many witches currently see the label as a way of expressing their willingness to take responsibility in their own hands, fight for justice, and ensure they're not siding with any kind of system or institution that denigrates others or harms the planet. A lot of that too comes up to when you say you're a witch. You're like, oh, one of the first things I've heard is, you know, the environment and, you know, mandating you need to protect that and other things of that nature. So it does come across as very political. And then you also get those types of people who, when you hear, you know, you're a witch, you have instant fear in some people because of the what was taught in traditions. And then so yeah, it goes across all different kinds. Okay, so at the end of her chapter, she says write it. She has a write it and try it. She's under her write it. She says, what are the various reasons that someone might be fearful or uncertain about claiming the word witch for themselves? What do you guys think? I've already taken it back.
Just other people's attitudes.
Yeah, for me, it's history. For me, it's history. Like, I feel, because I'm just a guilt-stricken person, all the people who didn't practice anything who were killed as witches, and because it was used as a bad word, I don't like it. You could even call me like a practitioner of magic, even a fucking magician or a bibbidi bobbidi boo. I would probably like be okay with that. Call me a fairy godmother. You know, it's just for me only. It is a different word now, but for me, I just don't. The history of the word, I don't resonate with.
I feel the same way. I always feel like I have to explain. I'm a good witch.
Glinda. The good witch.
Unless you cross me.
Until you cry.
I'll be honest. If I practice magic, any kind of anything, it's typically a curse. Always. It's either to hurt or heal. Those are the two things. If I everything I do nothing anymore, like nothing for me, no manifesting. Now I will do something to curse a motherfucker, or if someone is in need or hurt or sick. Those are literally the only two times I do it. And I curse a lot because I hate people. So there's that.
Well, I just take ownership of the word witch because I see it as a practitioner. I am a practitioner. I practice manifestation. I practice energy exchange. I practice medicine. So I have a thing that I do, and you could call me what do they used to call it, the healers back in the day? I can't remember, wise woman or
wise woman or
shaman.
Oh my God. Oh my God. I know what you're saying.
Like the witch doctor, whatever you would call that. You know what I mean? Like I'm okay with it. I've settled with it. I mean, I know there's a lot of history behind the name.
A cunning woman.
Yeah,
that's it.
It was coming. My brain was spinning. Sorry.
So I mean, it's just I'm okay with the term because I see it as a practice. I don't see it as a religion. I see it as a practice.
I wouldn't get offended. I wouldn't get offended if someone calls me that. You know what I mean? It's not something I would take offense to. It's just not something I use for myself. But if someone says that, I mean, look, I'm in a freaking book club for it. Like, it's not something that, what do you want, little girl?
Mom,
Go. Okay, I got to yell at a kid. I got to mute.
So the next question she's got is, in your opinion, what does it mean to be an authentic witch? I personally don't think that there is any one particular way to be authentic.
Well, I think she means authentic to yourself. Like, are you authentically you as a witch? Not like you're not an authentic witch because you don't do things the way I do. I think she means like authentic to yourself, you know? Like, are you truly being you as a witch? That's my understanding of what she means. So like you're an authentic witch because you do things by, your way. You're you. You don't change it. You do what feels right. You're authentic to Heather as a witch. So,
She mentioned something in this chapter about people who like to wear the label but not do anything. What do you think about that?
I think it's not authentic. It's okay, but they're not authentic.
Yeah, they don't practice all the time.
But who's to say what their practice is? If it's all willy-nilly, do what you want, like them taking a shit in the morning could be a practice. It could be their practice. You know what I mean? It's kind of, that is kind of away from like her whole meaning. The whole thing is like, what is a practice? You're saying you do it your way. Maybe just like sitting there listening to music, smoking a cigarette is their practice. You know what I mean? Maybe that's how they practice witch. Maybe they just close their eyes and, do whatever. So I think if you want to be called a flying spaghetti monster, you're a flying spaghetti monster. And it shouldn't, no one else can tell you you are. My big mouth opinion. Did you miss all my
Yes, we do miss you.
I don't talk to adults very often, so you guys do not get me at my best.
That's okay. We're all it's the end of the day, middle of the week. So under her try it, she says to check out some videos and podcasts or articles from witches sharing their personal journey of claiming and using the word witch for themselves. And then she asked you to take note on the different things about their experience, what interests you most about their decision to call themselves witches. And then she says to make a timeline that records your awareness and understanding of the word witch from the first few times you heard it in childhood. And don't worry if some of your beliefs about witches were fearful or judgmental. The timeline will show you the journey you have taken to arrive here as a reader of this very witchy book. Now, those are something that you guys can do on your own time, because she did make that statement in the intro that the try-its and the write-its are completely and totally optional. You can skip them, you could try them, you could, it's really entirely up to you how you want to do those. But if you guys do happen to run across anything interesting, go ahead and post it into the book club group so we can all have a look at it. So number 2 is, why be a rebel witch? Well, why not? You're building your own thing, and you're not held to the standards that certain traditions would hold you to. That's what I think. But here she talks about says, only you know why you choose to listen to a certain song while preparing to do a spellcraft, or why there's an image of a certain comic book character on your altar. Only you can say why a battered horror story book from your adolescence is your number one sacred text. As a rebel witch, you get to construct a practice that includes all the concepts and vibes that make you feel fizzy during your darkest times. You get to unlock and immerse yourself in a practice that captures the memories of your most dizzying highs and your most out there visions of the future. If your path is a shrewdly personalized design, it will contain the elements of power that speak most keenly to your soul, representing your beliefs, experiences, and intentions. Casting spells and performing rituals from the epicenter of such a consciously carved practice will really make them count. The more you use the magic, colors, objects, and words that generally matter to you, the greater the chance that you'll call on the results that you envision. So we all have a different way of doing things. And I like that she talks about in this chapter that it is totally 100% about you. And like Kate was saying earlier, you know, we do all have different little things and quirks and stuff that we do in our rituals. Like on my altar, I have a statue of Baphomet, and I utilize him as a representation of balance in my own personal path. But I also have a witch, like a little witch doll there. I have other things that I have on there, and they all have different meanings for me. And I don't use them in every single ritual, but I put them up there in case I need them. And then most of my tools are put away where they're not out in the open. So when I need to do something, I'll go ahead and I'll pick things. I do a lot of things on intuition. I don't pull open a book to go, okay, I need to have this, and I don't need to set it up in this direction. Because I've seen that in a lot of different places, like with certain traditions. You have to point in a certain direction. You have to have like the water on a certain side. You know, it has to correspond to everything. And sometimes I don't feel like any of that is necessary. So really breaking free from conformity is why I like to practice the way that I like to practice. So let's see.
I listened to, so using things that make you happy from like random places. Before I do anything, I listen to a song called Dance of the Druids. That's from Outlander, the TV show.
Oh, nice. I love that one.
Where the women, they're all dancing at the big standing stones and in white with like lanterns in their hands. And it's beautiful. Yes. And I heard that song, and that song makes me feel magical. You know, it's just magic. It gets me in that headspace or whatever that I need, or something from the Lord of the Rings. And this book kind of got me that fiction and things that really incite a response in me. Happy times, you know, whatever. If it's, you know, I want to like curse somebody, something, you know, angry and aggressive, like some Pantera from the 90s, you know, like just something to get me all raw. But, you know, things that are personal to me, and like that Outlander song and like the Lord of the Rings song, or even sometimes like fucking Harry Potter music, like random things get me, you know what I mean? In that it creates the environment for me specifically to kind of do whatever. And I love it. I love it. I love that part is what resonated in this whole book about, and I use that for anything, you know, for meditation, or if I'm in a bad mood, for mental health. Like everyone laughs, I say I go to Middle Earth, and I do. I go to Middle Earth. Even my husband will tell me, he's like, I think you need to go to Middle Earth. I'm like, I think you're right. And it works. It works every time because it puts me in a different headspace, like charm. And so I think in witchcraft and spells, it can do the same thing. And it doesn't have to be a song. Like she said, a book, a toy you had when you were a kid, something from your family, like the sky's the limit, anything that's personal to you. And to me, that is just genius. And it's powerful. It gets you, you know, pumped up.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
I had this one experience where I was with a friend, and I like Nordic music, and I like Nordic music in the language that it's written in.
Yeah.
Because I love the sound that comes out, like how it sounds. It's just beautiful. And I don't really like to listen to a lot of music that's not in my language because I have an issue with not understanding it. But for some reason, like when I play certain types of Nordic music, even if it's in, you know, Iceland, I don't even know if that's what they call it. I think it's Icelandic. I'm not sure what the actual language is called. But I love listening to it. And so like there was one time where I was doing ritual with a friend of mine, and I had put on some music, and she looked at me funny, and she's like, why are you putting this on? I was like, because I love this song. And she goes, well, do you even know what it says? And I was like, she goes, what if you're dancing to something that, you know, completely means something really bad? And I just
or singing about yellow balloons and butterflies and, you know, something random.
Right? But the song really makes me feel the song that I had picked I really, really love. And it helps me kind of get in.
Is it Hermanaling? Hermanaling. I know I'm saying it very in my Michigan accent. That's the only one I listen to of that kind of genre, and I love that song. It's one of my favorites. It is a
great song, and I'm almost to the point where I can actually like sing it in that language. But it's
I can do it German. I listen to a band called Fawn, and they sing you know, pagan type music, and it's in German. And I've actually learned a couple like of the songs. And my husband will look at me, he's like, what language are you? I'm like, German.
Right.
I love it.
But yeah, I was that, and it almost felt like she was judging me. She was like, I'm not so sure I'm comfortable like dancing around the circle to music that I don't understand. And I was just like, okay, that's fine. But but like it is really personal when you're doing your music. If you're vibing with whatever the heck that you're doing, that's just building up your own personal power. That's really amping up what you're doing. And it's I think it's great to be able to pick and choose how you do that, and to not feel poked at is just great.
Yeah, it builds confidence. And just like I said, sometimes you need ambiance and environment. At least I do.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm super angry. But yeah, that whole, and I think like, so if I'm going to do something that is Wiccan, I do it the exact way because of the ambience and the ritual of it. Like that's what I need in that moment. You know what I mean? I want this in this direction and all the representations, because in that moment, that's the environment and ambiance that I need, you know, right. Which isn't all the time, but just sometimes randomly, I'm like, I think I'm going to do a Wiccan ritual, you know, for shits and giggles. So it's kind of, I don't know.
So at the end of that chapter, she says, right, and what kinds of benefits are you most excited about experiencing as you journey along your path as a rebel witch?
Do what? I checked out. I looked at something. I started scratching my foot, and my mind went, woo.
So what kind of benefits are you most excited about experiencing as you journey along your path as a rebel witch?
Enjoyment. Actually enjoying it and not feeling like it's a chore because I'm trying to get something out of it. I want to enjoy the process. I don't so much care about the results as much as the taking the action and the physically doing something toward my goal, if that makes any sense. I want to enjoy it. You know what I mean? I want there to be some sort of enjoyment or fulfillment. Maybe that's a better word. A fulfillment, like a depth, a reason, not just because, you know, there's a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. I want to enjoy the fucking rainbow. I think it's pot of gold, but I really want to enjoy more the process and worry kind of more about being in the moment in the process than the reason at the end.
For me, it's about breaking free from conformity and not needing someone else's approval to do whatever the fuck I want. So, and when someone looks at me and goes, you can do that, I'm like, yeah, why the hell can't you? You know what I mean? There isn't this book that says nope, do it this way, and I like that I have the freedom to just be who I am, and if it doesn't work, then I just change it because it makes me feel better. So
Yeah.
that is just, it's freedom, not having conformity, not having restrictions is great. That's what I really look forward to. What about you, Shannon and
I look
Cassie?
forward to the heightened energy that comes from it.
Awesome. Yeah, just being able to live in your thing.
Mm-hmm.
Terry and Cassie?
I agree with all of you guys. It's all fitting.
Oh no, for me, I think it's more of like a recommitment and a self-esteem. Like I get out of it a lot because I feel like I'm not keeping it to a specific way I'm supposed to. And then if I try to listen more to intuition, then I feel like I'm doing it wrong and then I give up. So I don't know, that kind of reconnection, I guess. Yay.
Yay for reconnect.
So chapter 3, she jumps into the challenges of being a rebel witch. So let's talk about some of these challenges. So she says, for many practitioners, it feels safer to adopt what has already been prescribed by traditional frameworks for the voice of authority. And for others, it's just less labor intensive and therefore feels more sensible. So there's feelings of insecurity, doubt, because you're by yourself carving your own thing. There's, on my end, like I've had judgments. So, you know, people look at me cross-eyed like, well, how would you possibly practice this if you're not doing it this way? Or I've had people tell me I'm wrong. Because someone is following a strict tradition, like, oh, well, you're not doing it right. And it's like, well, why am I not doing it right? She talks about there being times where you might end up wonky, get setbacks, feel uncertain, come into a dead end, and then ask yourself why you're trying to do it in the first place. She also says you might feel vulnerable or weirded out at times adjusting the practices you're creating, and there's no one to turn to follow precisely the same path, and that can totally empathize or encourage you onward. So I think that having this group is good because, like, you can do whatever it is you want to do and feel justified in what you're doing. And having so many people in the group to be able to, like, kind of talk to and tap into kind of gives you, like, that wealth of ideas to come along in your own personal practice. She talks about this thing called the magpie eye. Okay. This is where she explains that as you adventure freely through all kinds of influences in your practice, you may find that everything tastes so good that you want to include it all. So this is where she talks about having way too many traditions to follow, or way too many practices to put in, and you get overwhelmed, and
the burnout,
and then eventually and then eventually you kind of go bleh. You know. She says it can be feeling that your practice contains quirky elements that distinguish it from others, but the downside is becoming fixated at adding new things or just being unwilling to put anything down if it excites you even remotely. A rebel witch with a magpie eye runs the risk of a cluttered practice in which the intentions have become muddy and there's a suffocating sense of overkill. So she says some witches can handle multiple altar spaces, a handful of deities, and quite a few magical workings going on all at once before they start to feel swamped. But that doesn't make their jam-packed journey superior to one that's a lot less busy. just with time constraints or high demands on their attention may feel that they can regularly get in. Sorry. They may not feel that they can regularly get into spinning play on a regular basis. So the obvious solution is to have fewer of them spinning in the first place. She mentions building something that reflects what you've been and what's important to you. She says building something that reflects where you've been and what's important to you is bold. A boldness can be hard to sustain. You have to believe that you can create what you can create can be effectual, and that you don't need to defer to someone else to tell you what's right or what's what. If you're a person who struggles with low confidence, self-esteem issues, or imposter syndrome, what is imposter syndrome? I have this like thought is that like you're taken over by something else. How would you explain that to me? I'm a little bit confused.
It's
on the
that you don't feel like you feel like a poser and you feel like fake.
Oh.
I
think we've all experienced that at some point in time in our life.
Yeah.
Doubting your abilities and feeling like a fraud.
Right. Yeah, I'm sure we've all experienced some of that in some points and times in our life. I like when I feel like that some ways, I just pick up a book and keep reading. But I think that's totally that point in your life where you're on the cusp of something. So for instance, I am studying plant-based medicine. It's just not an easy task. It's just not an easy task. There's so many plants and so many different body parts and so many different ways that plants can be used on multi-levels in different aspects for the body. And it's really complicated. And sometimes I feel like, oh my God, if someone were to come and ask me a question, I won't know the answer. You know what I mean? Because it's scary because you get people that will come up and ask you to do these things, and they're like, what do I do for this? And I'm like, hold on a second, I need more information. You know, like it's almost like I'm building out like a whole conversation with this person so I can kind of get inside their head, get inside their lifestyle, so that I can kind of understand what I'm working with. Because there isn't just this one way of doing it, but I tell you, it definitely makes me feel inadequate in some aspects because I'm never going to be this almighty, herbalist that knows everything under the sun. It's not possible. I could go to my grave and so on or something. But yeah, the same thing applies in your craft. Feeling the same way. I think that has to do with self-esteem mostly. What do you think?
Yeah, I feel that way as a parent. Not as a witch, but I would definitely think I have parenting syndrome.
Yeah.
Because you doubt your ability. You doubt if you're good enough parent, or if you're doing it right. Like you think you're doing it right, but then you're like, yeah, no, this person does it better. I'm not doing it better.
Right? Oh God. The worst part of that whole thing is that you don't get to know until your kids are grown up and they move the hell out your house.
Right. Yeah.
And then you look back and go, well, I could have done that differently.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's the worst.
I agree. Like, I look at other people's houses and I'm going, damn, I should clean my stuff a little better. or how come my house doesn't look pretty because I'm not decorative? You know what I mean? Like, and then I look at other people's like how they can like micromanage their children, and then I sit there for a second. And I go, no, I don't micromanage my children because my kids are okay and are allowed to be free in what they want to do in their life, and it has a lot of positive attributes, behind doing it. So I think we get too stuck in judging ourselves against others. And especially the crap that somebody doesn't break away from. It's totally okay to be original.
You're breaking up again, Heather.
Oh. Give it a minute. All right. Are we better?
No, you look like a robot.
And when you start breaking up, Heather, Katie starts echoing.
Sorry.
Come on, Zoom in with the program.
Hello.
And it's funny because none of you echo on my end. That's weird.
Hello?
All right, am I back? Am I good?
Are you talking? Because I only see you moving.
Am I better? Can you hear me now?
No,
Can you
not very good.
hear me now?
No, very good.
Damn it.
I'm delayed too.
I feel like I'm
delayed.
tripping.
I think it's, oh my God. Oh.
Acid flashback.
Facebook. Am I better now?
Your lips are moving, but I can't hear what you're saying.
I can't hear anything coming out of my mouth. Huh?
Oh my God, now words are
Damn
coming
it.
out, but your lips aren't moving.
Well, you know what? As long as you can hear me, I don't care if I'm.
And now it's
Oh
like
my
I'm watching
God.
a Japanese movie and I need subtitles because your words don't match up with your mouth.
Oh Lord.
Sorry.
Okay, so I'm gonna stop the live.